Hi there, it's Kevin with Gathering Magic and Roguedeckbuilder.com here with the final wrap-up, I guess you would call it, of the Rogue Market Challenge. This is where I have totaled up all of the value of each of the 25 ticket challenge portfolios. Today is November 1st, so I went ahead and went on MTG Goldfish and found the prices of all of the cards from each of the people's portfolios, and here is the top 5. So drum roll here. First place goes to Special K89 on his specs, mainly for the precinct captains. He spec'd a lot on precinct captains, and they did go up. They did see enough play in the Boros builds that they did go up in value, and he cashed out at a total of $49.22. We'll look at his entire portfolio. He had some other specs besides precinct captain, but I think precinct captain was his best spec. He was picking those up at half a ticket, and I think selling them for over a ticket. So he's able to double his money basically on the precinct captains. He had some other good specs as well. We'll go ahead and check those out in a bit. Second place over here goes to Jonathan. Jonathan got a 4283, and his main spec was Underworld Connections. I think if we wait a little bit while longer, I think he'll actually surpass up Special K, as he did spec into, I believe it was either 4 or 5 Underworld Connections. That's what made the bulk of his return, was on those Underworld Connections. So great spec there, Jonathan. Then on to Mr. XO. He spec'd a lot on, his best spec was Assemble the Legion. Had a few other specs with like Blind Obedience and Godless Shrine. Actually ended, I think Godless Shrine barely made him some money. He might have lost some money on Godless Shrine, but it was basically on the Assemble Legion. He spec'd on 4 of them, and they had huge returns, as we are seeing a lot of Assemble Legion decks, especially now in the Naya control list. So good job there, Mr. XO. That is a nice little return there. Then we have in 4th place, we have D-Lots that scored a 3198, and his main spec was on Rubble Belt Raiders, and they actually did go up from when he spec'd on them. They're a bulk as bulk got, and I do believe they times by, I believe, 400% from when he spec'd on them. You do see these Rubble Belt Raiders in a lot of the mono green and mono red lists. It is 3 devotion for the mono red. I don't know why. We might see this card actually start, if they decide to go the devotion route in the next set as well. You might see these prices increase a lot, as it is a triple green and a triple red. And it doesn't seem like the Theros has really supported a lot of double colors at all. A few here and there, but certainly no triple colors. And who knows, though? I'm actually thinking, this is a spec of mine, I'm thinking that they might have some anti-devotion cards that are coming out, like deals your opponent damage equal their devotion white. We'll start seeing the colors war against each other. That's my guess. So who knows? Who knows what this devotion is gonna, how devotion is gonna actually play out. So excuse me, nice little return there for D-Lots at 3198. And then in 5th place we have Zaganostia with 2990. Not a bad $5 return. Not a bad return. He did pick some riskier picks, but the Prime Speaker Zaganas did pay off and get him back into the positive, into the black, I guess is what you'd call it, not into the red. And yeah, the Prime Speaker Zaganas were able to pull his portfolio back up to a positive. I scored, mine was one of the least portfolios. There was about 10 entries, and I had a little over 28. So I barely creeped up above my initial investment. So I did horrible. I'll be the first to admit that I didn't make the best picks. I spec'd on a lot of cards and I think there's a few other players that spec'd on a lot of cards that would be seen in a black-red control list. And we haven't seen a black-red. I'm currently working on a black-red control list, but we haven't seen any of the black-red decks become tier 1 or even tier 2. So all of my specs like Dreadbores, and I guess you can go back and look at my specs. I got the videos up, all of my picks and whatnot. But and I also spec'd hard on Gyre Sage. I really thought that green ramp or just red-green aggro using Gyre Sage as an evolve dude, that it would increase in value a ton, and it actually, I believe, dropped slightly in value, so I lost a lot on my 8 specs of Gyre Sage. So that's how I did. We'll go ahead now here and look at Special K's, his portfolio here. So here it is. I hope you can see this. He has all of his dates that he spec'd on them and then the dates that he sold them. That was actually, he was the only one that actually did this. I said this was an option that if you keep track of a spreadsheet here of when you bought and when you sold, you can total it up and you can tell me exactly where you got it. So here's his 49.22. You can see he actually did make nice little margin on detention spheres as well, but definitely his precinct captains with a 400% increase there, a 400% increase on the assembled legions, and then his precinct captain again when he bought into them again and sold them had a 236% increase. So his one of Desecration Demon foil actually didn't get him as much. If he would have waited on that until today, I think he would have got a lot better return, as Desecration Demons are going like crazy on MTGO. And again, Slaughter Games had a nice little return on him. Bought it at 4 pennies, and they sold for 0.13. So, but he only had one there, so not a big deal. The bulk here was definitely the precinct captains were by far the best return. So, yep, the most spec card was Merciless Eviction. I think almost everyone had that on their spec target, and Merciless Eviction, unfortunately, just slightly increased. It actually did increase nicely from a 10 cent, but I think it went up to it's currently like a quarter on MTGO, and we could. I personally love the card. I play it in a black-white control list, and I absolutely love it because it's just a blowout against green. Is completely exile their board. I mean, a lot of times they have like 6 or 7 creatures out and they're ready to kill you the following turn. You just boom, Merciless Eviction and completely reset the game. And then you're very far in the lead with cards like, your own Shrines Out and Underworld Connections and maybe like a Whip Out. And then, of course, your Blood Barons and Obsidians and stuff are going to drop down the following turn and hopefully get you back in the game to where, you're each top decking and you actually have cards in your hand and he doesn't. Anyway, that's what I like about the Merciless Eviction. I'm definitely going to try it out in a few other decks. I love the Exile, as there is a few cards that Exile does work very well against. And we're seeing like a Varus deck right now that Exile is incredibly good against. And even cards like Voice of Resurgence, it's really good. Or the Chandra's Phoenix, it's good against as well. So anyway, and dying, anything that dies if you exile it. I don't know how many things there is. I think there's a few other cards that say when a creature dies. So exiling gets around that. So Firemane Avenger actually here was another one that was very spec'd at a few people that was their main spec, buying up to like 12 copies of Firemane Avenger. Unfortunately, Firemane Avenger has not seen much play. It did see a little bit of a spike increase when there was a Boros deck, but it has since been replaced and went back down to a nickel a piece. So that is the story on Firemane Avenger. Really like this. I was kind of disappointed with the amount of entries. I thought I had a lot more specs in the Roguedeckbuilder community, but unfortunately I don't think that many people wanted to risk the 25 tickets on MTGO. I had a lot of complaints that this was MTGO and not paper, and if it was paper they would actually do this. So next rotation, or maybe even before the next set, before February, we might do this again on paper. So again, a big shout out, big thanks to Gathering Magic and CoolStuffInc.com for sponsoring the prize here. Again, it was 50 tickets. So Special K89, please contact me and I will get that prize to you. Again, thanks a lot for everyone who decided to join this competition. I thought it was incredibly fun. I did the worst by far out of anyone, so you guys can all point the finger and laugh at me and my black-red speculations. So hope you enjoyed this. We'll do it again come February. This is Kevin with Roguedeckbuilder.com. Thanks for watching.